everybody. So, this one's for Asteroid. So, on my Discord server, which I'll have a link in the description, we have a new challenge, which is to create an asteroid base. So, naturally, yesterday I was messing around with making asteroids, and well, I found a pretty decent technique that allowed me to create this in a pretty short amount of time with minimal difficulty, so you can replicate it, create multiple asteroids and stuff. It's not procedural, but it's quite quick. Anyway, let's get started. So, I'm going to open a new blend file. By the way, these don't have to be spherical or anything. Yeah, I was going off of this reference pic. So, let's get started. So, as in a lot of my other tutorials, we are going to use a round cube. So, subdivide a cube, number of times, Shift Alt S, and press 1. So, now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some basic sculpting for the basic shape. So take your default sculpting brush, just mess with it, change the size, nothing too complex. You don't want any fine details because we're sculpting on the more detailed bits later. They're going to look wonky if they're stretched over like very fine details already. So just general shape, scrape brush, if you set strength to 1, this is excellent for rock stuff because it gives you sharp edges. There's also the multi-plane scrape thing that helps. So just do that. Do this until you find a shape that you're happy with. I think that's decent. So next what we're going to do, I think this is good practice. It's not really necessary in all cases. It screws up the topology a bit, but I like doing it. Especially if you have an irregular mesh. This one's pretty regular, so I'll show you it, but it's probably not necessary for something like this. So we add a remesh modifier, and I said this is good for irregular meshes because if you have very protruding bits, the topology gets stretched a lot, and this will make it more even if it destroys most of the edge flow and stuff they had before, but that stuff isn't really important. Anyway, you can use a rather high voxel size because you only want to preserve the basic shapes. So you can apply this. Then we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier for the higher details. Set it to make sure you have enough so that you can sculpt quite high res details on it. And I'm going to turn on statistics in the overlays. As you can see, I'm going to actually add one more because my computer can handle it, and then apply this, and then we are going to sculpt finer details. Alright, so what I like to do is I am going to grab a rock height map online. So just search up rock height map. Doesn't even have to be procedural. Come on. But it should have some detail. It can be a little bit hard to find a good one. Doesn't have to be especially high res. That was pretty nice. What you can do is this site 3D Textures has some really good rocks, and it's I'm loaded in here that you can find some pretty good rocks, but I'm not going to use that. If you have Quixel, that's excellent. Let me find a good one. It can take a little bit of searching. What you want is something that has some pretty good low frequency large details, some medium scale details, and very fine grain details. So you want it to ideally be like 2K maybe. Let's see. Textures.com might have something. So I have a Quixel subscription. Oh. So I have a Quixel subscription, and yeah, you can create a free account. Let's log in. Let's see what they have. So yeah, I usually use Quixel textures, but these are just fine. I'm going to try this one. That one looks pretty cool. So, download the medium. And there it is. So go back to Blender, and we're going to go to the Sculpting tab again. And we're going to go back to the regular brush here, and we're going to click on this button over here, Add Brush. And we are going to go into the Texture panel. We're going to click New Texture, go over here, the Texture Properties, open it, find the location of where you just downloaded it. So it's right here, Cliff Rock 003 or Cliff Rock 3, and that's basically all you need to do there. Next, we are going to change the mapping to area plane, and stroke method in the stroke tab to anchored, and change the sample bias down a little bit. Right, now you can sculpt this detail. It's really fun to do this. Let's turn it up a bit. Details, details. This is a really nice texture actually. I didn't expect it to work this good. Make sure to mess up the grain a bit because this is a very directional texture, right? So yeah. And also if you press Control, it inverts it, so you can get completely new. You can basically get two textures for the price of one. It's nice. This one's a bit lacking in the department of like fine, noisy details, but it's pretty good, as you can see. You just mess around with that. You get some pretty cool results. Alright, this is usually how I like to sculpt rocks if I'm not using the Megascans asset. I just sort of like click adding tiny textures all over the place. That's pretty cool. Like, what do you guys think? Now if you want to add some more fine grained bumpiness, you can duplicate this texture, and instead of an image you can use clouds. Change the depth up to like 5, or let's go 8. and change the size to like 1. And then do the same thing. Maybe let's go to, let's change our sample bias down a little bit. Right. Need to get down even a bit more. Right, so you can do some of that stuff. I'll change the strength down a bit. Anyways, I think that's a half decent texture myself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the scrape brush, I think. Or actually, no, this probably doesn't need it. If you got too much high frequency details though, using a scrape brush and then going in and filling in those areas with a little bit more softer details, so like using your original texture and just turning the strength down a bit can help quite a bit in making sure that you have the right amount of large, medium, and small size details, right? Because having just a blob with a bunch of pokey bits doesn't look that great, but I think this one's fine because we got more soft areas and more hard areas and stuff. Technically asteroids don't usually have these sorts of things, but I think texturing will help with that. Who knows? Also, we're missing one thing, that is craters. So, there is a guy, Midge Seneve, who has an excellent pack of these high-resolution moonscapes. These are crazy high-res, they're 16K. And the 8K version is free, and you only need the 8K. Trust me, it's more than enough for a simple sculpting brush. So yeah, that's the URL. He's got his page here. This is the link, and you can access his moonscapes right there. So I just downloaded the first one because that's basically, it's got a good creator in it, and I create a new texture. Open it, and we're going to go into, let's see, I think it's in here. I have an entire folder for his stuff because it's really helpful. Yeah. Go into, so you'll get a bunch of masks. You should extract the file, by the way. The displacement one's the one that we want. Go back up here. I think everything's set up the way we want it. Yep. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do a little bit of scraping so we can get some flatter areas where you can see craters easier. Oh yeah, that's looking loads better. And then when we put craters on it, it'll look pretty good. So yeah, just add a bunch of these bad boys. Change the strength, make some like more pronounced, some less pronounced. So yeah, and there are always different types, different sizes, yeah, different types. What's happened with me, guys? Always different sizes and types of craters. So right now we're kind of just building the very large ones, and we'll go back with the smaller pass, right? And if you look at reference photos, this is what I use for the one I built earlier. Psyche. This is a nice one. This is a nice rendering. But yeah, you can see there's steeper ones, shallower ones, there's really large ones, and then there's like really tiny ones, like this guy, those guys. So let's go back in and add just some smaller ones here and there, right? You can just spam it, it'll look good. So, I mean, that's that. Try and make them quite evenly dispersed, but at the end of the day it doesn't really matter that much. Alright, I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. I think that's a decent asteroid. Yeah, what do you think? I think that's pretty nice. So in shading, this is where all the magic happens. So obviously change your world color to black. You're going to want to make your point lamp a sun lamp. Set it to like 10. Alright. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add an input and ambient occlusion node. What's going on here? It's being weird. There we go. And then add a converter color ramp and crunch these values in a bit. This does a really good job masking out the highlights and depressed bits, right? So insides of the craters are very black. And then I usually add a converter math and set this to power. And I like to do like 3 or 4. So it's not that you can like, you don't have to be as harsh and you can get wider variation of tones there. I don't know, I just like it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna texture this bad boy now. So I'm gonna do color mix RGB and input texture coordinate, and I'm gonna add a texture noise texture object into vector and set this to factor. Then I'm gonna mix a like reddish orange, yellowish orange sort of color, and then a grayish color. Then we're going to do a converter color ramp here, and then we can control this. I said scale down a bit. Make this darker. Plug into the color. I'll make sure your roughness is set to like 1. You don't need specular that much. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a color hue saturation. So I'm going to change the value here down. Set this to 1. Yeah, that's better. And we are going to plug this into another hue saturation. Set the value to like 3 or 4. And the saturation down a bit, like 0.6 or 0.5 or something. We're going to do color mix RGB between these two based on that. You may want to up the samples if you got a good computer. Yeah, so this is masking out the sort of like the edges and stuff, and I found that this gives you quite a good look for an asteroid. And if you want, you can set the entire thing to be multiplied by some sort of this to be multiplied by an image texture if you want more detail. Right, but I think this looks sort of good. Then what you can do is you can duplicate your noise texture, add in a vector, and then displacement. Plug this back into the height. Plug this into the displacement. Make sure your detail is quite high. And this just gives you some extra detail. And make sure you set your scale down to like 0.025 or something. Because if not, it just the AO mask makes it look shiny. Stuff. Yeah. Set your scale up to like 5. I don't know. Up to you. Anyway, quick tutorial on how to get a decent asteroid. I think that looks pretty decent myself. What do you think? Obviously it's not the same quality as this, right? You can get it to that though with more image textures and more sophisticated if you spent more time on sculpting, right? But for a 25-minute tutorial, I'm happy with what we got. And again, you can duplicate it, you can, this is fully procedurally textured as well, so, I mean, limitless possibilities. That angle looks a bit weird, doesn't it, though? Yeah. Let's see what my other one turned out like. Yeah. This one I spent a few hours on actually, so it's turned out a little bit better. But, and I also had a backlight there. But I'm rather happy with this. One thing you can do if you want to sort of increase the AO details, you can change the distance in the AO thing to like 0.1, and you're going to pick up some of the smaller details. Like look at the difference here. This is 0.1 here. This is 0.1. This is 1. Right. Maybe 0.2 would be the best thing here. Crush the values down a bit so that highlights are a bit less profound. That's pretty good, I think. Change the detail up here a bit, and also the roughness. I'm going to add a backlight here, so set this to like 1, the angle to like 180, 170 actually, because 180 doesn't seem to like me. Set this to like blue, because like you want sort of planet background-ish. And the AO gets messed up sometimes, so just go out of rendered view, go back into rendered view. Yeah, there you go, it's a little asteroid. And it renders quite quickly because the material isn't that complex. Might help with a little bit more bump. Oh boy. I need to change the tile size, it's slowing it down too much. Anyway, that's that. So I'm going to do a quick plug for my Discord server. I'll put the link, the invite link in the description. So we hold weekly challenges. We do. There's a lot of assets there. I got like a black hole asset that I made. It's very cool. Fully procedural. It's up there. You can find the blend file. I keep a Google Drive folder with all the video asset drops and stuff. Yeah, it's where I network all of my stuff together. And if you're interested, maybe you want to compete in some challenges, do some cool stuff, be very excited to have you. Anyway, consider it. I'm not going to pressure you into joining, but it's there. So, as always, have a good one. Happy blending, and maybe share what you make with this. Yeah, and this week's challenge is an asteroid base, by the way, so maybe you can turn this into a submission for that. Have a chance to win some cool prizes. I put my galaxy material, which is, see here, I'll grab a picture of it. These guys. This is probably the best render. Yeah, you can find this on there. Fully procedural, fully volumetric. Bit computationally heavy, but yeah. Anyways, have fun, happy blending, have a great day. Goodbye.